Hi everyone, it's Yvette Le Blowitz from SPAITGIRL.com and welcome to the Spirit Girl Talk Show. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Pattie Martello, who is a personal transformation expert and the author of Meditate to Date, Finding Love Through Self-Discovery. Pattie, welcome to the Spirit Girl podcast show and welcome to our global audience. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Thanks really well. Well, you know, it's late here in Australia in the evening and early morning for you where you are. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And congratulations on your book. It has come out. It has made its way to Australia. It is officially on Booktopia. And can I say, Meditate to Date is totally grabbing not only my attention, but the rest of our Spirit Girl book club and many people in Australia. So congratulations, Pattie. How does it feel to have your book officially written, published, and launched? And now you've got exciting readers and people as part of the Spirit Girl community reading it and loving it and wanting to find out more about you.
Well, it feels surreal, to be honest with you. I really wrote it for myself more at the beginning. It was more of a catharsis for me to write the book. For me as a writer, something doesn't become true until I write it on paper. So writing it on paper made it true for me. And I realized by talking to a lot of women out there who are single again, who are middle-aged like I am, who are divorced, re-entering the dating world is it's kind of scary. It's because the world has changed quite a bit. So I wrote the book also because I learned a lot of painful lessons, and I wrote it so I could prevent them from experiencing those painful lessons as well. And I wrote it because I thought I discovered something that I thought was helpful for me to get through that journey. And so I wanted to share it with others because I feel that it will help them as well in their journeys.
So when it comes to the title, Meditate to Date, how did that title come about?
The title came about, well, first of all, I like the fact it kind of rhymes a little bit, Meditate to Date. It's a little catchy. That's how I came up with it. But the concept was, when I took a break from the dating world, which is part of the approach that I cover in my book, I deepened my meditation practice. I had started meditation originally for managing stress at work because I felt like I'm a type A person. I'm always on. I needed to find a way to unwind and remove some of that stress and that self-chatter in my brain. So I started meditation for work. And then when I stopped dating, I essentially decided this is the perfect opportunity to deepen my meditation practice. I was doing it on my own. And then I decided maybe I'll join a meditation group here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I did. I went and I deepened my practice. And it's through that practice that I learned a lot about myself. And by learning a lot about myself, then I kind of figured out what I really wanted. And I realized I was doing it all wrong from a dating perspective. But I had to press the pause button because I felt like I was throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what would stick. And that approach isn't going to work. So that's how that all came about.
And you still love to meditate today?
Oh, I do.
Today.
I do. In fact, actually where I work, I was talking to my boss. She's also into meditation. And we talk to the head of HR, and they're actually asking me to put together a presentation on meditation where they might actually implement it as a part of their program there at the bank. So we'll see how this goes. But yes, I love to meditate. I've tried all different kinds of meditation. So I've done transcendental meditation, mindfulness meditation. I've used some of those apps like Synctuition on the iPhone. So I like to dabble in different things to see what works. And some days one may work better than another. So some people are very strict. They only do one kind. I like to dabble and see what works the best depending on the situation.
I love the idea of bringing the meditation into the workplace and teaching people that skill, because then they can take it back into their home and also can just help with their overall health and well-being. And I know, Pattie, when I started meditation, it totally transformed my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing your book, Meditate to Date, but also your love for meditation and many other of our other guests as well, because it's such a great way to check in and, like you mentioned, clear that overactive mind or that chatter, or come back to yourself. So, Pattie, you still meditate now and you love it. Did you feel that when you first went into dating, before you had done the meditation, you were very much looking for love outside of you?
Yes.
Love from someone else, because we got raised being taught that love came from finding, in this case, a man. And many of us have been raised like that.
Yes, I think I think even though we live in a modern society, women are still living in the past when it comes to men and relationships. We feel that we have to have that plus one on our arms, or else there's something wrong with us, or we're not good enough. I start the book by quoting my father when he said, if Pattie were in a room with 100 men and 99 were perfect for her, she'd leave with the one who was not. And that's how I've lived most of my dating life and my relationships. Just happy to have someone to like me or validate me without really figuring out, well, what do I want? What do I need? So, and I think a part of that has to do with the fact that I didn't love myself, because I didn't even know who I was. So I had to figure out who I was, and not only figure out who you are, people have to figure out why they love themselves and why they're worthy of love. And meditation is what brought me to that self-love that I needed, because if I'm not going to love myself, then how can I expect anybody else to love me? You're always going to be attracted to people that are manipulators or have agendas, because they know that, all they have to do is dangle the carrot, and you'll jump for that carrot because that will validate you as a person. So that's kind of how that all came about.
I love your honesty, Pattie, because I'm sure, like, when I was listening to your story there, I could resonate with that, and many of our listeners will be able to, where we've always been raised and taught that love comes from outside of us, like from someone else, like a man. And then when we have a partner, we're in love. Like, we were never raised being taught that, no, love has to come from within us, and we don't need someone from outside of us to be love or to feel love. Like, it starts with us. And I think meditation also taught me that as well. And I had no idea either. And it really, like you say, it really does help to get clear on who you are and connect to yourself. In the book, you talk about this 3-step approach: pause, awaken, and launch. Can you share with the audience a little bit about what you discovered with this 3-step approach?
Well, I discovered, first of all, pause just happened naturally, because after the last person I dated before I wrote the book, I realized, well, I asked myself, what am I doing here? You got to stop. This is insane. The kinds of people that you're attracting into your life and you're allowing them to stay in your life, what are you doing? So I decided, okay, stop the insanity. Just pause. Press the pause button. Not saying you're never going to date again. You will probably, but take a break and realize a change needs to happen. It's like a lot of people know that they need to change, but they don't change because they're more comfortable with the familiar than the unknown, because the unknown scares them. But I'm like, well, what's the worst that'll happen? I'll just take a break. So I took a break from dating in romantic relationships. And in the book, I even mentioned that I told my daughter and my friend, hey, I'm going to take a year off from dating. And they laugh because they know me so well that I wouldn't. And I was really mad at them. We were at lunch and they were like howling. They go, oh, you won't make it a year. And I'm like, I'm going to make it a year. I was really upset, but I did. Then I decided to go deep within and do all the things that I would normally waste my time swiping left and right on, because you can spend hours online if you're dating, swiping left, right, talking to people. I would say that like only 30% of the people online are actually legitimate. Some of them are scammers. Some of them are married men. Some of them are just looking for a hookup, even though you clearly say, I want a long-term relationship. So I decided to start focusing on things that were important to me. So meditation was one of them. And during that process, I took a few meditation classes, which were about the joy. They were called things like the joy of everyday living, healing, that sort of thing. So I'd go to those classes and I would deepen my meditation practice. And I think it's when I said out loud, when we were talking about fear in the class, when I said, I'm afraid I'm going to die alone. And I said it out loud. And it was at that moment I was like comfortable. Then I was okay with that because I'm thinking, well, that's not so bad. I mean, everybody dies alone, really, technically speaking. And I could be fine. So once I knew I'd be fine, I acknowledged my fears, did the healing. And I took a lot of time to go through my old journals because I journal. That's part of one of my self-care rituals. And I realized through several years after my divorce, I did a lot of whining. It's time to stop whining and start doing something. And I looked through all my relationships and I evaluated them because I have been a business analyst in the professional world. So I decided to use what I learned as a professional. I applied it to my personal life. And I sat down and I examined all my relationships, what worked, what didn't work, what I never will do again. For example, in the book I mentioned, I dated a very nice man. He happened to be separated, but he was still wrapped up in the divorce and his wife. And, I'm like, it wasn't going to work because I always felt I was last on his priority list. And he was just so overwhelmed with too many things. He needed to read the book and pause. He shouldn't have been dating you. Right? Like now that I know, I should have said to him, hey, and I even told him that when we broke up, I said, look, you need time to heal. You need time to take a break and really figure out what you want, because I think that's what you need too. So then I decided, launch isn't a very aggressive term, but it really means to get up and start moving. And by launching, I mean facing your fears and defining exactly what you want in a mate and exactly what you want in a relationship and what are your dating rules. So my new dating rule after all my experiences, one of my dating rules was don't date separated men. And that was one of my rules. And make sure that, you have criteria. Sit down and figure out what is really, really important to you in a partner, and don't waver from that. So if there's a certain criteria that is a must-have, then don't waste your time dating people that don't meet that criteria. So, and then you make sure you're completely healed and you forgive yourself and forgive others. If you're still carrying around the baggage and the anger from your past relationships, you're going to bring that with you into your new relationship. So you really have to heal and forgive yourself, because a lot of us, it's easier to forgive others than ourselves. So I had to forgive myself for being so stupid, because that's how I was clueless. And so I'm like, it's okay. I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes, and you have to learn to love yourself with, everything, the good and the bad. So that's kind of it in a nutshell what the process is in the book.
I love your honesty, Pattie, because this is so much fun, because you have talked about how you really had to clean up your own backyard and deal with your own baggage. And I can totally resonate with you on the whole when you get divorced. I really feel it takes quite a number of years to process that breakup and to sort out, who am I? Now, what do I like? What are my interests? And to really get yourself together. And you're right, when people are just separated from their partner, or they've got kids involved, it's really messy. And I say that anyone that gets separated in the first 12 months shouldn't be dating at all. They should just be taking a pause. I often think that when I have actually dated people who have separated, I felt more like a counselor.
That's exactly right. Yes.
So that is totally, now I will not date anyone who's just been newly separated, because I honestly believe it takes, I don't know, I think at least a good 2 years minimum at best. It's probably even longer, but at least 2 to 3 years, massive breakup. You've got to allow time. When it comes to the book, your book's out. You've had a lot of women reading it. Obviously, they're resonating with your stories. They're loving your humor. They're loving your honesty. How does it feel now to have women reading it and going, that sounds like me? And they're just resonating with it so deeply.
Oh, I'm just thrilled because then all my mistakes haven't been in vain, right? So the fact that I made mistakes and they can appreciate them and hopefully avoid some of them if they can. So if they're not as far down the path. But no, it's very exciting to me to feel that there are people out there that are reading my words and feeling like we're kindred spirits in a way. They're going through the same thing. And I'm really happy if it helps them, because, it helped me. And if it helps them, I'm just absolutely thrilled. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. And obviously you have had a technology background. So many people, like, I know I'm in my 40 plus club, but even for me, going online to look at people's photos and decide whether you maybe like them or not, or want to talk to them or not, it still doesn't feel natural, even though it's now the new norm because of COVID-19. But meeting people in real life when you're 20 is so much easier.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like when you're at the bar and you're young and it was easy, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in your later years divorced, and then trying to look for a partner, and you've got to go onto a phone and an app, and it's a bit like, okay, this is weird. And then you don't know who you're talking to. One of the things I like, Pattie, that they're bringing out now is verifying people's accounts.
Yes.
So I think that's going to help a lot. Pattie, what are your self-care rituals? And also finding out, after you did the meditation, you found love with yourself, and then did you have success in finding someone more suitable to what you wanted or what you were looking for?
So regarding the self-care rituals, there are a lot of things that I do that add meaning to my day. So for example, meditation, obviously. I like to journal because it helps me get my thoughts clear before I start my day. Other rituals that I like to do, I like to treat myself with a nice hot bubble bath or salt bath. I might go to a spa to get a manicure, a pedicure, or a facial. Those are like the treats. I just, because COVID is now lifting here where I live in the US, I wasn't able to go to my hot yoga class for well over a year. And I was finally able to return a couple weeks ago. And so I'm just so happy that I can go again. I go about 3 times a week. That makes me so happy. I didn't realize how much I really, really missed it until I lost it. And then I'm like, wow. I tried to do it at home with the videos and stuff, but it just wasn't the same as being in a room with a lot of people and seeing your teacher and saying, hello, how are you? It's more of a social aspect too. And just being even meditating with other people, it feels a lot different than when you're meditating by yourself. There's that that joint energy that you can feel, positive energy in the room. So those are the kinds of things I like to do. Regarding the book and finding, using my techniques to find someone, I did find someone more suitable for myself. I mentioned it in the book. Unfortunately, probably it was a couple months ago, I decided that wasn't working for me. He was a great, we're still friends. He's a great person, but he's just not what I'm looking for totally. And I don't think you really know somebody until you date them for at least a couple of years, because we're all on our best behavior at the beginning, right? We want to impress. They don't see you when you wake up in the morning with your hair disheveled. They don't see that, you might be having a bad day. They don't see the other side, and they don't see that in you, and you don't see that in them. And so at the beginning, it's all, you're falling in love, and it's exciting, and it's all new, and you don't know each other's stories, so you're learning. And once you learn the stories, you have to have enough compatibility to continue that dialogue. And I don't think that I had that with the last gentleman that I dated, because we told our stories, and then we just didn't have anything else to really talk about because we just aren't compatible completely. But he was a very, very nice. He is a very nice person. I like him a lot. We care about each other very deeply, but it's just not a long-term solution for me.
It sounds like, though, in this case, it's actually turned out to be where you're a lot clearer on what you're looking for. And instead of staying, like, maybe, would you say maybe the old Pattie might have just stayed there and not been self-aware, like, oh, I need a deeper, more spiritual connection for this to really, more things, compatible interests to flourish? Would you say the old Pattie might have stayed there, but the new meditate to date Pattie was able to be self-aware and have that conversation with him, and like, you're obviously still friends and you're able to part in a really, really positive way?
I think two things. One, the new Pattie was able to recognize that there was a red flag earlier. I probably would have stayed a lot longer and gone through because especially when you get older, you feel as an older woman, as opposed to if you're young, that your options are getting fewer and fewer as you get older, because a lot of older men like to date a lot younger women for
30 or 40 years younger.
Yeah, I know.
Heard it all.
As they say, they trade in on the newer model, on the older model. So from that perspective, the book helped me realize this isn't going to work for the long term. Another, looking at it a different way, I think it's a positive thing. The old Pattie, like you said, I would have definitely stayed longer. It may not have lasted forever, but I would have stayed a lot longer. Because quite frankly, when you get older, you feel like I'm running out of time. You're like going against that clock. But I think on the flip side, I'm a lot more comfortable making that decision now. I feel very good about my decision. In the past, when I would break up, even if I didn't even like the person anymore and I didn't ever want to see their face again, it would still break my heart, because I felt like I was cutting a limb off, like he's leaving and it's over, and what am I going to do? And oh my God, I can't get this right. I don't feel that way this time at all. I feel very confident. I feel very happy. And I don't regret it. So I think that also helped me with the breakup. It helps you connect, and it helps you break up if need be.
I'm just seeing how powerful your meditation practice has been, and to see it transform not only you loving yourself or connecting to yourself and working out who you are and what you like and what you need. Even sounds like you're attracting, I would say, better dates into your life.
Yes.
Yeah, much better dates. And then when you do go down that path and you both kind of think, oh, we've gotten to know each other, but there's just a bit of that you're able to sort of break up in such a compassionate way and stay friends and see each other for as it is. So, Pattie, if there was someone out there listening and going, Pattie, I'm just so over dating, but they really would like to find someone. You sort of talked about whilst you're like running against the clock, you feel a bit at peace knowing you're okay on your own.
Yes, because I don't feel like I'm running against the clock. I think society puts that stress on women as well. I think that a lot of the younger women are definitely ahead of the curve on this, because marriage is not the end all be all game for a lot of younger women. But because we were raised differently, when you're a little older, like you have to get married, you have to have children, you have to do all these things, right? So I think that women who are saying that they're tired of dating and they can't take it anymore, I think that's a hint that you need to take a break, because you can't be doing something that you're disgusted with, right? Like you keep banging, it's like banging your head against the wall, right? So I would say take a break and be comfortable with being by yourself. And you're the best person to have the best relationship with, right? Learn to keep yourself occupied, learn to love yourself, and enjoy those times. I think that because of social media is a great thing. I'm not against social media. I think it's very helpful. In fact, I wouldn't have met that gentleman had it not been for online dating, because he lived 100 miles away. Right. So I would never have met him. He never would have been in my circle. So there are a lot of good things about social media. But the bad thing is that we're constantly on and we're constantly distracted. You have the TV on, you have the radio on, you're always looking at your phone. So whenever it's time to meditate, a lot of people get scared because they don't know what it's like to sit with themselves in quiet. Right. So I would say definitely, if they're feeling disgusted, read my book, but take a break. And you have to move through that feeling of not liking it, because if you don't like it, then you need to slow down a little bit.
I love that advice. Now, Pattie, I could talk to you forever about your book. The title, like I said, I love, 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 and I love how honest you are. And women and even men are going to really benefit from the book. If anything, it's a little bit of a memoir, isn't it, where you talk about your own personal experience and then offer up tips. But what I love about the book, the ending is you really are going to fall in love with yourself. So finding love through self-discovery, which is what I really love, how the ending, like I love the concept of the book. Whilst you're still on the dating scene and anybody can be of any age, the whole purpose of the book, though, is really finding love from within. So then even if these dates don't work out, that's okay. Like Pattie says, that's okay.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's really empowering and a really incredible book. Whereas I know I've spoken to many women who are totally stressed out if they haven't got a man, can't find a man, not dating, like it's be all the end all. Like their whole world is going to fall apart if they don't get a man. And it doesn't matter what man, it can be any kind of man. It's just a man. And I'm like, all right then. Whereas I'm like, just give me a good self-help book and a meditation and a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and I'm all good. If you had a wish for your newest book readers, someone who's going to pick up this book, Meditate to Date, what would it be?
I would say that I hope that women who read the book will know and love themselves after they're done reading the book and applying the practice. So at the end of each chapter, I do have exercises for women to, so you can read the book, but you really need to do the exercises to help you get to know yourself, because they're designed to help you do that. And they're also designed to introduce you to meditation if you haven't meditated. But I want them to know and love themselves for the process. And then I want them to know, by loving themselves, similar to what you just said, they don't need a man to be happy, but I hope that they'll figure out what they really want, and then they could go find it. And then if it doesn't work, they'll still be okay. But if it works, it's kind of like icing on the cake. It's not the end all be all. So that's what I'm hoping. I hope they learn to love and actually know themselves first, to know what they want before they even go out there and start dating again.
I love this, Pattie. It's such a beautiful story and a beautiful book. And my take, Pattie, is that moving forward, women are becoming so independent that they love their space, they love their meditation practice, their yoga practice, their community. And even when they do maybe find the date after they meditate, they're still going to go, you know what? I got meditation practice on Wednesday night. Friday night's yoga. I might fit you in on Saturday.
Yes, exactly.
And, like, I really feel that this whole, as you get older, I'm speaking to more women who say, you know what, I don't want to live with the guy anymore. Like, I love my space. I can resonate with that.
So can I.
It's changed so much, hasn't it, Pattie? Even to say like 10 years ago to now, women are so independent. They're even saying, even if I retire, I do not need a man. Like, I'll have my own house, my own garden, my own friends. And it's going to be really interesting, Pattie, because it wasn't like that 20 years ago, that discussion of a woman putting, say, yoga practice or hot yoga or meditation or coffee with her friends before a man. That didn't happen.
No. And I was guilty of that. If I'm going to be completely honest, I was one of those women years ago who would shuffle her calendar around to accommodate a man. And you lose a part of yourself when you do that. If it was important to you yesterday, it should still be important tomorrow. So why are you shifting? So I agree with you. My aunt always used to say, and she still says, I like a man in my life, but not in my house.
I love this. I'm going to take those words
thinking,
of wisdom.
You know what? She was definitely ahead of me on that one, because I'm like, And at first I thought, many years ago, I'm like, well, that's just not the way it is. I mean, you have a man in your house and you live. And then now that I've lived with a couple of people, I'm like, maybe my dad, he's actually 86 years old. My mom died many, many years ago, and he's been dating a woman, and they live in their own houses.
Yeah, I love this.
Okay.
I love the separate
like a win-win.
houses. Yeah, because you get your own space. If you love your space and you're an introvert, and you're a writer too, Pattie, so you'd appreciate this, but writing when you're by yourself is the best thing. I'm always not on my game when I've got people in the house and I'm trying to write, and I'm like, even though I know they're out in the lounge room, I'm still like, I'm so conscious that someone's out there. For a writer, I definitely think if you're a writer, Pattie, you would appreciate this, that the dating, you'd have to have your own place, and there's no way you're going to be moving in. Oh, well, Pattie, how can we stay in touch with you after the podcast show?
Well, you could go to my website, which is www.pattiemartello.com. The Pattie's with an IE, like peppermint. Yeah.
I'll make sure I put it in our link, and I'll also put the link to the Booktopia website, also available on Amazon.com and so many other bookstores. Pattie, thank you for sharing your book, your story, your self-care rituals, and making the journey of love back to self-love. So it's just been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to meditate with you one day when I'm over in the US.
Oh, definitely. We'll definitely have to put that on the calendar.
Thank you again for being a guest. We'll say goodbye to Pattie Martello and Meditate Today. Be sure to add that to your book list, especially if you want to find love through self-discovery, and if you want to be inspired to even take up journaling and meditation and really just get to know who you are, as you are and be confident in that before you go out looking for the one. Because as Pattie would say, you are the one. So
I like that. That's really
yeah,
good.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Spirit Girl podcast listeners. Be sure to subscribe, to leave a rating and review, and to tell someone you love too. And together, let's feel good from within.